online. It was filed just moments ago. I assume, Mr. Chief Clerk, that it is available online? Thank you. It is. Amendment 1521 will strike Representative Hedden's amendment and strike in the bill the context of the bill as you see it today, and replace it, ladies and gentlemen, with a constitutional amendment defining marriage as being between one man and one woman. The amendment also, because this is a little different because we're debating a House file right now, the amendment will also change the title page so that it is no longer a House file, but that it is a House joint resolution. I know that we have not often, or perhaps ever before, seen something quite like this. But I spent some time down in Service Bureau earlier this week to make sure that it was possible. Many of you have at many times seen amendments that change our title pages. When we make significant changes to a bill, that often requires that we change the title page. We can do that. There may be some discussion about whether or not the amendment is germane to the bill at this time, but we'll have that conversation later. But let's talk for a little bit about why this amendment is before us today. You know, at every single one of our desks, we have different mementos. Remind us of things that are important to us. Some of us have pictures of our family. I'm looking at Representative Kaufman's children on his desk right before him. Some of us have things from home. I have a series of books on my desk. And I've got a copy of Atlas Shrugged that I constantly have here to remind me about the power of government. Keep a copy of a book called 100 Ideas, Ways to Innovative Ideas for Government. And this year I've added Zen Lessons. Whether or not I've read that or not is for you to decide. But I also keep two other books that I hope guide me in what I do in this chamber. One of them I'll talk about at this moment, and the other one I'll talk about in my closing remarks. And that one would be the Bible that was given to my father by his mother upon his baptism. I keep that with me to make sure I'm doing what is the right thing to do. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit in the debate this afternoon. But the other one was given to me by former Representative Dan Boddicker. It's a beaten up, old, tired copy from 1917 of the Iowa Manual of Legislative Procedure. I want to share with you a couple passages from that. And this was prepared by our predecessors in this chamber. It goes to the issue of why here, why now, why not us? On procedures and practices on the passage of bills, our predecessors said that the object of all forms and rules of procedure is to make it possible for the General Assembly to determine its will upon a particular subject of legislation with freedom in deliberation and intelligence in judgment, and when so determined to give it immediate expression in the form of words best suited to the object in view. Our predecessors told us years ago that we have the power as a deliberative body, as a body, to decide what is the right thing to do and the manner in which we, as the body, choose to express it. Now, in the event that I have to suspend the rules later today, I'll share with you what our predecessor said about that. No practice of parliamentary procedure is perhaps more important in lawmaking than the suspension of rules. Rules are suspended for the purpose of facilitating the passage of bills. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an avenue available to this body if we want to see legislation passed. But I know that we don't operate today, even though our new House rules, as we pass them, say that we're bound by precedents. Somehow I don't think anyone remembers exactly what was done in 1917. So we operate today under Mason's manual. I keep this one in the desk drawer now. I would tell you from the first chapter of Mason's manual that governs how we as a body operate, how we make our decisions. Mason says that the great purpose of all rules and forms is to subserve the will of the assembly rather than to restrain it, to facilitate and not to obstruct the expression of its deliberate sense. Our rules exist so that we as a body may make a decision and advance legislation that is important to the body. Not to a party, not to a caucus, not to an individual, but to the body. And this body, ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't have to remind you, exists to express the will of the people. I would also share with you, in Chapter 4 of Mason's, that rules can be suspended. The rules of the individual houses of the legislature are under their own control and may be suspended whenever, in the judgment of that body, suspension is required. The purpose of the rules is to aid a body to perform its duties more efficiently and with fairness to its members. Whenever the rules fail to serve this purpose and are not required by the Constitution or other controlling authority, the rules may be suspended. Ladies and gentlemen, I would argue to you today that not only may they be suspended in requiring fairness to the members of the body, they should be suspended to provide fairness to this body and, more importantly, to the people of this state.